teacher. Jesus gave this parable as a result of the arrogance of the scribes and the Pharisees, who felt they were knowledgeable, who felt they were already educated. Hence, they have no need of any teaching from Jesus. They were the ones who were teaching in the Torah and the prophets of the coming Messiah. But when the Messiah appeared, who has the fullness of knowledge, who has the fullness of wisdom, and who is the revelation of God's presence to humanity, they ignored him. They couldn't recognize him any longer. And this led Jesus to have said, can a blind man lead a blind man? Can a disciple be above his teacher? And we have all answered, no. This is very true, because nothing stops a man from going astray or falling into the pit of condemnation when he arrogantly refuses education. Nothing can stop you from going astray or from falling into the pit of condemnation when you arrogantly decided that you don't want to be informed or you don't want to be educated. Because there is no one that can perform without being informed. For this is how life works. For this is what the principles of life are all about. And this is why if you are conversant with history, with the process of education and the development of science in the 18th and 17th century, many scholars came up, and one of such scholars is called Francis Bacon. The scientific revolution came about in the 17th and 18th century, and Francis Bacon will say, knowledge is power. This statement came from him, that knowledge is what? Power. And if you read Proverbs chapter 24, verse 5, it reads, a man of knowledge increases in strength. A man of knowledge increases in strength. Proverbs 24, verse 5. Friends, from our creation, God desired that you and me be educated. From our creation, God desired that we be informed. From creation, He gave us the capacity to acquire knowledge. This was why from our creation, He gave each and every one of us what we call the brain. If God had only desired us to live in prayer, He wouldn't have given us brains. Because by prayer, it is not the brain that we use in praying. It is the Spirit of God that we use in praying. This is why Romans chapter 8 verse 26 will say, for we do not know how to pray, but that the Spirit of God that is in us teaches us how to pray. But as for education, it is not the Spirit that we use for education. It is the brain that God has given us, that we should be able to acquire knowledge through it. So each according to its function. But most often we neglect the function of the brain and we dwell more on the spirit. We must strike a balance. Both of them are two wings that lead us into our future. Both of them are two wings that lead us into conquering this life. And in Genesis account of creation, God will say to humanity, as seen in Genesis chapter 1 verse 28, be fruitful, subdue the earth and conquer it. The earth can never be subdued and conquered only by prayer. The earth can only be subdued and conquered by prayer and using our brains. For this is the only way. And because knowledge is very important in this aspect of conquering the earth in subduing it, Jesus will have to warn in the gospel of today by asking the question, can a blind man lead a blind man? And he will say, and we also will say, no. Because we need knowledge to grow, we need knowledge to be stable, we need knowledge to be mature, we need knowledge to be responsible, we need knowledge to do that which we are supposed to do. This is why in the church, no one is ordained a priest by mere saying, I had a dream that the Lord called me. If you have a dream, you must be formed. And that your formation does not just come overnight or after 3 weeks. You must be formed for 9-10 years because you are going to be dealing with human beings. In the seminary, we don't call it education. So we don't call it knowledge. We call it formation. Because it is encompassing. If you call it mere knowledge, it means that you can acquire knowledge and nothing comes out of you. But that if you are formed, something will surely come out of you. Because with knowledge, fools have passed exams. But that if you are formed, you cannot be formed and be a fool. Because you are formed in order to inform people around you. And this is why even from the meaning of the word education, which is from the Latin, educare, it means to be formed, it means to be shaped, it means to be trained. That when you are trained, you will be able to lead those who are entrusted to your care. Jesus, God himself, never desired leadership to be given to those who are not knowledgeable. This is the reason behind the gospel text of today. And philosophers have actually given more reason, building on the gospel of today, why leadership should be given to those who are knowledgeable, those who are formed. They will insist that whoever desires to be a leader, he must become what they call the philosopher king. In other words, you are called a king because you are knowledgeable. You are called a king because you have been educated. You are called a king because you know what it means. And you know the buttons to press in giving relevance to the society. So this is what it means to becoming a king. That knowledge makes you one. Education makes you one. From the interpretations of many scholars and philosophers. Because when you are formed, what Jesus described in the gospel will not happen to you. That if a blind man leads a blind man, that will not both of them fall into a pit. Nigeria today is traumatized because we have allowed ourselves to be led by blind leaders who have led us into the pits of insecurity, who have led us into the pits of collapsed economy, who have led us into the pits of educational and health bad systems. We are where we are because we have allowed ourselves to be led by blind leaders who have no knowledge, who have no clue of what industrial revolution is all about. Today, we are suffering as a nation because we have failed to employ the principles of ancient scholars, both from the church and outside the church. Because for ancient scholars, leadership is supposed to be given for those who are knowledgeable. Even from the family, if a father is not knowledgeable, expect rubbish from his household. If a mother is not knowledgeable, expect rubbish from her household. If the spiritual leader of the church is not knowledgeable, expect rubbish from the congregation. Because I will be impacting rubbish into you when I am not knowledgeable. And this is why the first reading that's taken from the book of Sirach says what? Do not praise a man before he speaks. Because if you are praising him before he speaks, by the time he speaks and he is not knowledgeable, he will just be impacting nonsense into your brains. But I will also add, do not condemn a man before he speaks. Because knowledge is not by appearance. It is by the way we communicate, by the way we relate. Jesus himself insisted leadership should be given to those who are knowledgeable. When he was about leaving his disciples, he gathered them about him, and he asked them the question in Matthew's Gospel chapter 16 from verse 13 to 21. Who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? Because he never wanted, by leaving them, people who were preaching a wrong identity of his person. So he needed to know who they really say he was, so that he would know who to hand over the leadership of his church to. A man with knowledge, a man with discipline, a man with understanding. And when the disciples were unable to answer the question except Peter, what did Jesus say to him? Flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And this was why at the beginning of the Mass, I prayed for you for divine illumination. Amen. That when God flashes your brain with his knowledge, he stands. That he is the source of wisdom, he is the source of knowledge. That Jesus was trying to give out to the Pharisees and the scribes, but arrogance wouldn't allow them. But because Peter confesses Jesus to be the Christ, what did he say to him? Upon you will I build my church. A foundation must be built on a knowledge. A foundation must be built on that which is already formed. Because if you build a foundation where there is no knowledge, expect the collapse of that foundation. And this is our souls today, from families and even to the society. So when you say you are knowledgeable, your knowledge should be able to form you, so that you are able to discern between justice and right. So that you are able to discern between hospitality and evil. So that you are able to discern between love and mere pretense. So that when you sieve yourself of so many vices, then will you be able to live in being a cure to the troubles of so many in the society. Jesus insisted that leaders must be able to see, because their duty is to bring healing to their followers. Jesus insisted that leaders must be able to see, that is, they must be knowledgeable, because their duty is to bring justice and not injustice. Jesus insisted that leaders must be able to see, because they are supposed to give hope to their followers, not heartbreakers. But when you are blind as a leader, and you have followers who are broken, you have followers who are sick, you have followers who are traumatized, you will rather increase their trauma. You will increase their troubles, you will increase their sorrows. For this is what it is. And because as a nation generally, we are yet to be educated when it comes to politics, when it comes to good governance, when it comes to truly living a better life. This is why today we are still insisting that the president of Nigeria come 2023 must come from a particular region. Nobody is talking of competence. Nobody is talking of knowledgeable. Nobody is talking about someone who is experienced and knowledgeable. We are all talking about region. When a man comes from a region and that he has no knowledge, he will not only destroy the region he is coming from, but even his own seat that he is sitting on. This is why we need men and women of knowledge. And this is because we cry, we shout and say, this leader must come from this region, he or she must come from that region. That when elections come, professors who are supposed to be returning officers, because they have decided to remove the knowledge they have received through their years of formation and training, they will use their hands to rig elections for blind men. Same blind men you have used your hands to rig elections for, because of peanut, will come back tomorrow and inflict pains on you, while as we strive will never end.
Well done.
This is our story as a nation, and Jesus is the one calling us today. He's the one giving us the guide. So because we have used our hands to bring in place blind guides, blind leaders, we are now into the pits of educational collapse. Because Jesus insisted that when a blind man is a blind man, will they not all fall into a pit? So this is our story, and no one can change the story for us but us. The only one way to avoid falling into the pits of educational collapse health system, economy, and what have you, is by properly investing in education. Because if we don't invest in education, this collapse, these pits will remain with us. But by the time you seriously invest in the education, then can we fill in these pits? And the pits can only be filled with knowledge. And to be able to fill in these pits, we must vote men and women who are knowledgeable. If you don't vote for someone that values education, he will not value it. You say we are ready to change our story. How many of us have our own PVCs? You say your vote will not count. Just go and vote. That is your responsibility. You say you cannot go and follow a long queue just to have your own PVC that is free. You cannot go and have a long queue to have your PVC. But you can go and have 3 hours queue trying to buy fuel for 230 naira.
Well done.
Are you getting it? Some of us have gotten the PVC. Go back and vote on election days. No. Even if there is no light, you on generator and be watching results from polling units from your room. Who will be making the history for you while you are lying on your bed? As you lie on your bed, those who are voting, when the trouble comes tomorrow, it is not only for them, it will follow you even into your room also. Recently, I drove to INEC office at PZ for Sabongari local government. I went there. There was no single Christian there. I entered their main office. They were wondering who was this man coming into this place. Oh, we are Muslims. Small children. They were there by 7 a.m. trying to get registered. Those who have registered before now have refused to go and collect their PVCs. I saw it with my eyes. Because as they pile them up, you will see this side the road, Basawa, Samaru. The PVCs are there, becoming dusty. And you will not go and claim it. Yet tomorrow you will claim it right. I see many of you posting pictures of old men, that these old men will not rule us. They will rule you if you don't go and pick your PVC. So the ignorance actually is starting from us. This is what Jesus is talking about. Can a blind man lead a blind man? What a challenging question to you and me. Only us can change our story when we decide to wake up, when we decide to be responsible. You don't go and make PVC because you want to go and open an account. You open the account, and when you have the bad government, the account remains dormant. The bank will freeze the account because you have no money to go and put inside. church is emphasizing this every day. Reason why we have Catholic Action Nigeria, that we have it here in the church, in our parish. But how many of us are here? If Father Patrick will have his PVC, I see no reason why you should not have yours. If the bishop will have his PVC, I see no reason why you should not have yours. Life is not all about spirituality, it is also about social building. We have been challenged, and we know the solution. The solution is by having the proper knowledge. That when you are informed, you'll be able to form those around you. When you are educated, you'll be able to vote for him whom you know is also educated. And the days are fast approaching. Many aspirants that desire to become president and governors, these days, they have been interviewed in many of the stations we have, the TV stations. Some of them, you see how sound their thoughts are. But you don't go and watch them. You are watching African magic. And by the time the magic comes, you'll be confused. Watch some of these interviews on television, so that as the year is coming to an end, you see some of these interviews, some of these individuals who have been interviewed. You see, this man has a sound knowledge. He knows what it means to build a better Nigeria. Even if he doesn't win tomorrow, you have done your part by voting for him. Wow. But if you don't do that, how can we change the story? So we must insist that the changing of the story must begin from us. Investing in education, in removing arrogance and pride, laziness, in order that we will be formed, or we may be formed, so that tomorrow will be better. And because we have the knowledge, because we know the solution to our troubles, though the situation seems hopeless, it seems we have been traumatized, but there is hope, because Jesus is our victory. Jesus is our salvation when we are ready to submit ourselves to Him, informing us and in taking right decision. As we say every day, I've got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Nigeria is a traumatized nation today as a result of blind leaders who have led us into the pits of insecurity, collapsed economy, poor educational and health systems, and lack of industrial revolution. We must invest in education to avoid this. And I pray for this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.